Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Mandy, the Handmade Homeschooler, and today I'm going to go over a lot of the books that I have been reading since the end of the school year. So it's been about 6 weeks or so since I started this batch of books, and I just finished the last one last night, and I watched the movie. So we're gonna go over all of these books, and I will make sure that the links to all of these books are down below in the description box if you want to go check them out. If it's your first time here, I want to welcome you to my channel. Make sure that you hit the like and the subscribe button. It really does help me and my family out every time you do that. Also down below in the description box, I have a link to our free Facebook group if you want to join us over there. We talk all about curriculum and different things relating to homeschool and motherhood and all kinds of things over there. So if you want to join us, you are absolutely free to do so. So there's been some recent shakeups with the way that I work, and for the first time in years, and I'm talking like years, I've actually had the time to read for myself. And you know, usually I would just read or pre-read things for my kids, you know, that was like homeschool related. But really, for the first time ever, I've been able to read books for me. And I don't remember the last time I've been able to do this, to be honest. My kids were really young, but I've always been the biggest book nerd. I mean, when I was a kid, I honestly thought about being a librarian. Let's put it that way. And when I wanted to own my own business, I actually wanted to own a bookstore. And there's still a place in my heart that really still wants to own a bookstore, a used one in particular. But for right now, I don't own a bookstore, but I own a lot of books. So we're going to talk about some of the ones that I have been reading and some of my absolute favorites. I have two brand new favorite books that I read in this batch, and one that absolutely changed my perspective and changed me a lot while I read it. So let's go over the first one. Worthering Heights by Emily Bronte. So there's a reason why I picked up this book. Okay, it's not because the cover is pretty, which the cover is pretty, but there's all different kinds of versions of this floating around on Amazon. This is the prettiest one, in my opinion. That aside, and this is the one I'll link down in the description for you. That aside, I didn't love this book. I really didn't. The reason why I read it, okay, and you're gonna laugh at me. I am big into K-dramas. Like, big. Obsessed. Love them. It's pretty much the only thing I have watched since coming back from our 3-year stay in Asia, and it's just one of those things I carried with me. I can't help it, and that was 10 years ago. So it's been a long time since I've actually watched American TV. In one of my more recent, absolutely favorite dramas, the whole drama was based around this book. And after watching and obsessing over this drama, I mean, seriously, it was one of my favorite TV shows of all time, I decided I have to read this book so I can understand the show better. And while I get how it connected to the show, I hated the book. I really did. I mean, the ending made it at least okay, but I didn't like it. And I know a lot of people absolutely love this book. It's a Gothic novel. I think it's a terrible representation of relationships, especially marriage and courting and all of that. I think it's a terrible example of that. And the main character's behavior, both of them, was atrocious. I would never want my children to act like this. So even if I had teen girls, I would not give them this novel. This is not a good example of acceptable behavior in my point. And I know I'm gonna get some people like screaming at me in the comments about how it's a Gothic novel and yada yada yada. Okay, I get it, I do. But at the same time, she's awful. She's really awful. No love for this book. I might even donate it, to be honest. Okay, let's move on. Let us move on to better books. So the next book that I read was a classic because I wanted to actually pre-read this for my kids, but I haven't read it myself, and it was Lord of the Flies. Okay, this one I devoured. Once I got past chapter 3, I think I sped like headlong to the end, and it was one of those that captivated me. I think I'm going to give this to both the kids to read. We might actually add this to our lineup of ones to do with, I don't have the book over here. I thought I did. We might actually add this to our lineup of teaching the classics. I'm not sure. It is a shorter book. There are only, I'll let you know here, because there's like a study at the end for classes and things like that. Just over 200 pages, like 201, 202. And it's a smaller-ish type book too. So you can really finish this probably in a week with kids, especially if you're reading it out loud. I bought the audiobook, and I actually started this because I was reading the audiobook, but I remembered I had a paperback version. So when I started it, it's actually the author on Audible who reads this book, I believe. And once you get his voice in your head, you can't hear another voice read it. So I really think that the Audible version added something really cool to this. I love that the author read it. I loved his storytelling. I loved his inflection at different points. I think it really gave it something extra. So I sound like Elle Woods. I'm sorry. What I would suggest if you're going to read this, if you want to do the Audible version and have this on standby, that's a great option. I think it's a good option. There is violence in here. There is a couple graphic scenes, so just be aware of that if you're going into it. There's a couple times where they describe things that, while I think teenagers would be just fine handling, the younger kids, you might have to pre-read and skip over some parts. All in all though, great book. Love it, recommend it. Just pre-read the content and be aware. So this one was a really, really short one recommended by my church. What our church does every now and then is they will bulk buy books from companies like Banner of Truth, good sourced books, and give them out to the church, and we'll spend money, and every family will buy a copy type thing. And this was one of the recent ones that we purchased, and this one is Prayer: A Biblical Perspective by Eric J. Alexander. I was very unfamiliar with this author, but by the time I was done with it, I was really captivated by his writing style, by his background and everything in here really was biblically solid, 100%. So this one, highly, highly recommend. This is a really short book. It is larger, and I think the print is a bit larger than most books. And still, there was less than 100 pages. This one takes you through how to pray, basically. I've never read a book like this. The only other book that I could compare it to is R.C. Sproul's book on prayer, which I have as well. And these books are comparable. I haven't finished R.C. Sproul's book yet. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I did finish this one because our church was reading it. Highly recommend this book. If you are looking for a book on prayer for your kids on prayer, this one is a good one to pick up. My two favorites. I'm so excited to bring you guys these books. So the book that really changed me and my perspective on life, The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. I know very little about Corrie ten Boom, and I want to say year before last, I read one of the Christian biographies about her, but it was for children. I hadn't actually read her story in the adult, older teen paperback yet. And it's been on my list forever, and I finally picked one up because it was on the Knotgrass list for my oldest history from last year. It was 9th grade. So their 9th grade history, world history, this one was on, I think, the reading list. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's why we have this one. So I got it from Thrift Books, and this is told through the eyes of Corrie ten Boom, and it's by Corrie ten Boom. I wish I would have read this rather than so much of the Anne Frank novels. Now, don't come at me, okay? I get it. Anne Frank is an important her diaries are an important literary component of learning about the Holocaust. I get it. This one was different. This one left so much more of an impact on me as a person than Anne Frank's diaries. If I had to choose between the two, this one, hands down, all day, every day. But as I was reading it, I really saw how she was reformed, because she was talking a lot about the sovereignty of God, which I thought was so interesting. And it's like, once you realize that she's reformed, you see it come out everywhere. And you see her theology behind what she believes as she's going through each situation. And every situation that she goes through, she brings it right back to scripture. She brings it right back to God. And she quotes scripture over and over and over again. She prays over and over and over again. And this is one of the books that changed my view on suffering. As somebody who has a brain condition that will most likely take my life at some point, this book was very helpful. Very, very helpful. Now, I'm not saying that what my struggles are is even close to what Corrie ten Boom and her family went through. There's no equal there. What I am saying is her view on suffering and hardship, on pain, physical and mental, is what helped me and changed the way that I view it. And honestly, it gave me ways to pray and scriptures to memorize and things like that as I went through this. If you can see, like, I actually bookmarked several places all throughout this book because I want to be able to go back to it when I'm in a place again, you know, like I was last year. So highly recommend this book. I have a new favorite fantasy novel, and I can't believe I didn't read this book until last week. Yeah, I think I started this a week ago and I'm already through it. The Princess Bride. Oh my gosh, I love this book. I just love this book. I think this is going to be one that I wear out. Although I do wish it did not have a movie poster cover, because I don't think anything irritates me more than books that have movie poster covers. And I have looked high and low for a copy that does not have this, and I can't find it anywhere. So if you know of a place where I can get The Princess Bride and it's like in a classic binding or something and has like a nice cover, please like link me, please, because this makes me sad. It's the only thing I don't like about it. But anyway, the story was so good. And once I understood how the story was set up and who the actual author was, I was in stitches laughing through this whole book because it is hilarious. Yes, it's a love story, but my favorite character is not either one of these people. And I read this whole thing very, very quickly because this whole part here is actually a chapter of the second book that was never written and like a study guide. So this book only has about 400 pages, but it's a short binding type book, and I was able to read through it very quickly. So highly, highly recommend this book. I think this is my new favorite fantasy novel. Would this be considered fantasy? I feel like it is. There's giants. I feel like this is a fantasy novel, but I may not be right on that. Anyway, it may just be a fiction, regular fiction, but love it. I think that this is such a great story. I think it is hilarious. The writing style in here is unlike anything that I've ever read before, and it's heavily laced with satire, and that is my favorite type of humor because I'm a very sarcastic person, which typically comes out on my Instagram. However, I'm trying to be less sarcastic in real life, but let's face it, it's just my nature. I can't help it. So this one just captured my heart. I absolutely loved all of the characters. I think they were just so funny. This one is probably my favorite out of the whole bunch, other than Corrie ten Boom's book. This one was my other favorite. Definitely, these two were definitely favorites of mine. And these are going on my shelf to reread over and over again. All right, guys, that is all I have for this video. I hope that it was entertaining, at least for you. And remember, the links to all of these books will be down below in the description box. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Happy homeschooling.